Tonight, the mystery deepens as the death toll rises in New York among children diagnosed with complications from the coronavirus.
The illness has taken the lives of 3 young New Yorkers.
The state investigating 73 cases.
One of the few rays of good news was young people weren't affected. We're not so sure that that is the fact anymore.
I think you've maybe a little bit about what I've been doing. So that I've been talking a lot with time-lapse folks, and I thought that you fill a really cool space, I think, in the time-lapse world. I've been thinking about this because I showed my wife some Time Storm film stuff, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to do yoga to this like every day now." She's like,
Nice.
she's like all in.
Sure.
But I was thinking about it, and I was like, I think the thing that you and Morton do that's so cool is it reminds me of being a kid. When I would go to like a science museum, I would go to like in Philadelphia, we have the Franklin Institute, which is like a big science museum. And it reminds me of going to like an IMAX and seeing the world in these amazing places, like shot at an absolute expert level and edited at an absolute expert level. And it's just really awesome, man. It's like you are really doing like the dream, I think, that in a lot of people's eyes.
I mean, I can relate to this. Like, oftentimes when out shooting there and realizing after long travel, being there, having a bit of time of just looking around, I'm like, hell yeah, that is awesome. And I remember this. I love science. We have a really nice science museum here in Munich. Like, I as a kid was into that IMAX, exactly that. And it's a really good analogy to like how I often feel shooting too. Like, this is actually just from a feeling level, it's actually really like this. Like,
yeah, that's so cool, man. Because like I think those are the types of videos that really do. And they don't just inspire people that are into photography. They just inspire people in general. Everyone I think can relate to that idea of, well, I was 10 and I had to go on like this school field trip to the science museum. I don't know if they call them field trips in Europe, but in the States we call them.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, for sure.
Just we're all gonna get everyone in 4th grade to like get on the bus and we're gonna ship you out to some cool place.
100%.
And it was like, and then we all went to like maybe the Franklin Institute or a science museum or something, and you saw it, and it was just it was this really fun moment for a lot of people, and it's like, yeah, I feel like your stuff is right at that level. It is that,
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to hear. Obviously, that is always what I'm aiming at. Like for many years, I want to be like, yeah, IMAX and stuff, and like always the highest quality. You're never there. I can tell you right away. Like you're never totally at it. Like There's always a little bit more you can do. And especially comparing to IMAX, those are big productions with a lot of people, with way more expensive equipment that I use. So yeah, I always see like, yeah, that's the goal, but you will never get there. Like,
right. Well, you think it's possible that you could produce films for something like that? Couldn't you? Or do you think there's
part of it? Be a part of it, because like I'm mostly a one-man show. Like, I work with friends and like collaborate here and there, but in the core it's a one-man show, so I can only do so much. Obviously I like to do everything and every part of it, but there's still a limit to how much you can do. So often like in these productions, like when I get a job to work in a productions, I get a whole new sight on things, like how a production works, because I'm not doing a production, I'm doing like YouTube videos and doing single clips. Like I'm a content creator in a sense, right? So the whole producing part of it I didn't even touch that yet. So that is really interesting. So that's what I mean. Like, yeah, I'm doing some stuff quite well, but so much stuff that I don't do at all. I have no idea about.
Really?
Like sound, like sound is, or composing is so another thing, and I have no idea. Like I have my microphone here. I just realized I maybe should change the battery or something. Like that's the level I'm think, so.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of video people are, I would say almost all of them are never audio people. I mean, they may be more adept with audio than, say, like the average person that's not interested in this field at all. But yeah, it's like some of the best video people are often like, I wish I could find an audio person to help me out with this stuff. And that's like a foreign language to a lot of those guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of fields I'm interested in, but I can only do so much. So
yeah, for sure.
That's the point.
For sure. Yeah. So what do you suppose, I guess, like what would bring your stuff like to that next level in your opinion? Is it just having more people to just shoot more? Is that basically what it comes down to?
Not necessarily. Like, yes, sometimes if you're on a tight schedule, it's more like making less mistakes always, like, and being prepared when the right moment comes. So at one point maybe to have enough time to shoot, especially with time lapse, because you can shoot only very little at a time, basically. Like you shoot one night, you have maybe one camera or two, and you get 2 shots, right? I mean, you know it.
Yeah. Oh, I know it well.
And sometimes time is really the thing that you need, and especially when you are looking after one special shot, you might have to wait for the weather, or you need weeks, and to be then prepared, to be then good enough to not fuck it up. Basically that is the point where like to get better, like being prepared in like unexpected situations or something like that.
And knowing your your craft well enough to be able to respond to maybe that sudden changing light or changing weather, so that you can just instantly dial in the exact exposure settings that you need. And the other thing that I think people don't necessarily think about, maybe photographers that don't necessarily do a lot of time lapse, is that it's not just thinking about the perfect exposure settings to dial in for that moment, but it's also thinking to yourself, however, in 5 minutes, if those clouds clear up, this whole thing is going to be overexposed. So maybe I need to shoot it like 2 stops or something underexposed now, in the 50% chance that those clouds actually clear up, and then I can still save my shot. That's a totally different thing to consider.
Yeah, you have that another the other dimension of time. So you need, I always say, like, it sounds a bit crazy, but yeah, you need to be good at predicting the future, like to some point. Like, depends how long, but sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes 10 hours, 14 hours a day, just to have a really good educated guess about what's going to happen. And that determines if your shot is going well. And then, of course, 2, like having the right settings, the right gear, the right workflow to work with these situations. So predicting the future.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I totally feel you when you say about having, like if you only have one camera, you may only be able to get one shot. And I remember up until the point that I bought a second camera body, that was like always the thing, because it was like, the other thing is that you might just be pointing your camera in the direction that you think is the most interesting. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, like I wanted this subject, that mountain or something. But if I turn around, there's a mountain that's almost as cool, but that's the one that's getting all the cool clouds and the light,
That's my life, man. Honestly, I've been there so many times, like having a sunset. And where do you point it? Do you point it right at the sun where probably good color comes, or right in the other direction? suddenly you see a great earth shadow or have the pink all the way in the back, and you're shooting a complete different direction. So yeah,
Right.
I've been there so many times.
What's your philosophy on that when that happens? Like, do you tend to just say, look, I already started the time lapse, I just have to see it through? Or do you ever go, maybe I can still get this shot, I'm going to turn it around and I'm just going to start a new one right now?
Honestly, it depends how many frames you have, because if you stop a time lapse and you only have like 200-300 frames, that's a super short clip. That's like 4 seconds of footage. You don't want to stop it there because you can't cut it to anything. So if the shot is ended and like works in itself, yeah, you can stop it and put it in the other direction. But usually I just keep it running, because I've done that too. Like I stopped it and I fucked up 2 shots basically, and I have nothing. So yeah, usually I keep them running. So and it didn't happen so much in the recent years. Now I got 2 or 3 cameras. Very fortunate to have that. Or it's I mean, it makes total sense from a business perspective. If you shoot for somebody and you just want to get as much out of your time, basically, and
totally, especially if you're
like this.
traveling like halfway across the world, and you had to take, I like, for example, I know that you've done a lot of stuff in the Atacama, hence, the films that you've done now. Like you've done 3 of them, right? Three.
Yes, indeed.
Like it's not, as a guy who is also very big into traveling off the beaten path. I haven't been to the Atacama, but I feel that, like when I've gone to like sub-Saharan Africa, it's not, you don't just get off the plane and you go, all right, we're here. You get off the plane and then you get on another plane. And that's a really tiny plane. And then that gets you to the rural area. And then usually you have to get in like a car or a bus or something. And then you have to drive maybe 6 more hours to get to some of these places. So, I think when you're playing like a game that's that high stakes, the idea of not having a second or third or even like a 4th camera is almost stupid at that point. Like you just make sense to have all that backup.
It is. 1, to get more shots. 2nd, your camera might fail, especially in like harsh conditions like Atacama or somewhere else. But yeah, this environment can break everything. And you have dust, and sometimes shots don't work, and sometimes you make mistakes, and then you still have a 2nd or 3rd shot that night, especially since a single shot can take 10 hours. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to ask you kind of more back to the science museum stuff. Yeah. What do you suppose is the big thing that separates a film like that? I know you said production, but is it the type of thing where if you were just shooting longer, like suppose like if you put 10 years into something and you went to the Atacama constantly, like is that what it would take, just to like having enough shots to get the best shots and then have 70 of them or something?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get different shots, but yeah, some shots like take time. You have to wait for the perfect conditions. Yeah, I guess like if you shoot 10 years on a single thing, you get really good stuff, and you probably could make a film like an IMAX film or a documentary. Then on the other hand, what I've experienced a lot that adds to a film is the pre-production, the connections, the locations, the access to locations.
Right.
Through productions, I've got access to locations I would have never, ever gotten myself shooting like a personal project or something, because they have a budget, they have a research team, they make the contract, they have like real good pre-production. So that part is really not what I'm really good at. I always go like when I'm alone, like when I do something for fun or a personal project, I go somewhere and see how it goes, maybe get access, ask them at the gate, hey, can you let me in or something? But yeah, that whole pre-production organization adds so much.
So what kind of stuff does that bring to the table, like in an actual shoot? So for example, like one thing you said was just being able to get access to certain things. So I'm picturing, like, to bring up Africa again, because I guess that's the closest thing I can relate to this. You can tell that there are certain photographers that get access to like like in a lot of the national parks, you can't go off of the path. But if you have a certain like press pass or a certain, I don't know, just certain clout as a photographer, they'll allow you to like drive right off the road. And now all of a sudden you can get to that, you know, lion hunt or whatever it is. So is it that kind of thing? Is it stuff like that, or?
It's rather like bureaucratic stuff. Like I had in mind the observatories I've been to, and those are like high, like scientific places. You need to have a, like, first of all, a permit, then you have a health certificate because it's so high, then you have good reason,
right.
and then a schedule because like they are doing science operations and you can't disturb them, and you have to have safety briefings and that kind of stuff. And also it costs money. They need a supervisor for you, but sometimes with you. So yeah, you have everything is possible, but you have to organize it. It's a lot of work and a long process. So I see that as like something super important and super much work. I would love to have this kind of pre-production more, because I see it from my experience with the productions. It's amazing when you get there, when you get to special locations, like almost nobody else can go. It's epic. It's fantastic. So,
like an eclipse or something like that. Some
an eclipse, and then like shooting inside the VLT, the Very Large Telescope of ESO at night, like like $1 million dollar telescopes. And they're like finding new planets there right now when I'm shooting there, and they let me in at night.
Dude, that is cool.
Insane.
Yeah, that is truly insane. Like I'm out here shooting my time lapse of the Milky Way, and this guy's just like, oh, there's a planet. Like, didn't have to write that one's name down. Like, what?
Yeah, or they're observing black holes or something, like whatever. Like that's science fiction, but it's not fiction. It's real.
Right. Yeah, it's like an episode of whatever, you know, Star Trek, or you're watching Star Wars, but it's just happening in real time right in front of you.
Exactly. Whenever you see in like news, like, we pictured the first black hole, or we found this habitable planet. Yeah, right there. Or right here. So, I mean, that's just one example. There are many, like national parks are a good example. Anything with a hard access.
Right. And I would think that probably having a team that can handle like a lot of the logistical things, and I mean, you know, thousands of pounds of gear. And I mean, like I was going to ask you about this later, but I guess it's a good time now. Like, I know you'd have a lot of like slider rigs and things. And I had a very sad day. About 6 or so months ago, I ended up selling my slider rig, and I didn't want to, you know, I love using it. It's great, but it's such a nightmare to use. It's just such a pain in the ass. And you've probably gotten to the point, because you use it so frequently, that it's probably pretty quick for you. I don't think I got to that point. You know, so it was like, it was just such a pain in the ass to set up for me. And I realized like, I actually was almost like subconsciously like avoiding using it. It was almost like I would look for a justification to not bring it, because I knew that I would get angry and I'd curse, and, you know, I'd get so upset trying to set this thing up that eventually I was like, I have this $2,000 asset that's just sitting around. And I just thought, I'm going to temporarily get rid of it, and I'll buy a couple lenses or something. And eventually I'll get another one again.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that at some point. Of course, I see your point 100%. I guess it really comes down on what kind of system, how reliable it is. And of course, if you figured it out and know it like your back pocket. But yeah, I mean, I can feel that. Sometimes it's heavy. You have to carry it. You have to build it. It's slow to set up compared to a tripod. Yeah, I'm a lazy person too. Yeah, sometimes for sure. Right. Yeah. Sometimes for sure. Like, especially when hiking. Every time I go hiking, I just like, do I actually get the slider? No, I just take the tripod and maybe pencil.
Right.
That's fine.
But clearly you have done that. I mean, I've seen some of your shots where I'm like, there's no way that he just drove right up to the spot and placed the slider on the ground. Like, I know that you're carrying these like massive loads of equipment, like far in some cases, right?
Yeah, sometimes. Usually it's not that far because it's heavy. Even with carbon fiber and all stuff, it's still a lot of stuff. So, but I guess I just optimized my slider stuff so well that I really only take what's really needed. Like I customize so much. Like my build my own carbon fiber rails, and like I cut off aluminum parts that are just for no use there,
Right.
just to make it lighter. All that stuff. And I tested many systems over the years. Like I have so many sliders or slider remnants here,
I bet.
motion control systems, and I kind of figured out what works best for me and most reliable. That's most important. Like,
Yeah. I would imagine.
I can't have it if gear fails. Like if I do mistakes, fine, that's my fault. But if gear like fails, you paid a lot for, and that can be avoided. Like just get better gear or fix it or something. Like, but having just gear give up in the middle of a shot is the worst.
Dude, I can, like, especially some of the shots that you're getting, like I can, you know, these like celestial events and things like that, where like I waited a year maybe to get this shot, and then it's like,
right?
You gotta be
kidding. And you probably sleep. You're probably sleeping in the car, and the next morning you see the camera halfway on slider just stop. Like, no, that
right.
is bad. I mean, it doesn't happen often anymore. Like, again, I figured it out quite well and got a reliable gear.
Yeah.
But I've done all the mistakes too, like as everybody else. Like, so much has happened.
Dude, mistakes are important. I mean, really, like I can't even tell you how in these podcasts how many people I've talked to where it's like, oh man, I mean, if first of all, everyone makes mistakes, obviously, but it's the mistakes that really like are the biggest learning experiences. And like I was talking to do you know Michael Shainbloom?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We met before here in the Dolomites. Actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Once.
So, you know, he was telling me how, like he kind of got into Photoshop like relatively early. And you know, at the time that he was getting into it, there weren't tons of like tutorials and things on YouTube where it, like now it's like just anything, how to blah, 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 anything.
Right.
There's a video for it, and it's probably a well done video. You know, it's probably in 4K, like it's probably pretty good. And so, you know, his whole thing was like, you know, I didn't have a lot of stuff to like kind of lead the way for me. So he basically just had to learn by making mistakes constantly and just, well, what happens, you know, like, I don't even know if there was like an Orton effect preset, you know, it was kind of like he actually created another layer and then like blurred that one out and like 50% opacity and all that stuff. And like, you know, manually probably did that kind of thing. And I think that kind of trial and error mentality is so outrageously important, because when you feel that feeling of like, oh my God, I fucked up, or why the hell can't I get this to work? The moment that you resolve that problem is infinitely better feeling and more valuable than just if somebody said, oh, here's how I shoot a time lapse, blah, 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 go. Like it's just to have the ability to go through that is so great.
Because you actually understood it on a deep level, what the problem is and how to solve it. And you probably find out a lot of other things that you might remember in a year or two. Like, I have so many examples for that, but like Michael did it on Photoshop. Like I was like playing with After Effects when I was 15 or something, and watching Andrew Kramer's tutorials.
Yeah.
And like in After Effects, because I wanted to do titles and like whatever, like all fun stuff, just playing around.
All the cinematic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and anything, like not even some VFX or a camera tracking or something that I didn't need it for at the moment, but right now. For example, I just published a new video today from some scenes French shot from the South Pole. And it's really short clips, like 100, 150 frames. When you know that's like 3 seconds played back at 30 FPS. So that is way too fast. So I remember or over the years, I played a lot with Twixtor, which is like an interpolation software to interpolate frames missing frames basically to slow it down, to make fake slow motion.
Interesting.
And I remember that I was playing with this a lot, and the software got better. And right now, the whole video was only possible because because I know how to do this kind of stuff, which is kind of totally time-lapse unrelated, but really useful now. So
yeah,
just an example, but
yeah. So you're saying that 150 frame shot, you were able to make it look as though it was like, let's say, a 300 frame shot. You were able to go from 5 to 10 seconds.
I slowed it down 25%, which is like 8 frames per second,
right?
Which is super choppy, but
yeah,
it's very smooth now. And I mean, it's just one example of figuring stuff out before you need it.
yeah.
So I like this kind of like just trying stuff out and like just messing around with anything. And you never know. Sometimes you need it, and sometimes it's useful.
Yeah, that's true. And I've really, me personally, like I've really tried to. I think that naturally I'm not the type of person that learns something just for the sake of learning it. I usually am the type where I go, I know exactly what I want. How do I get to this thing? So I am definitely one of those guys that sort of falls into the trap of like wanting that immediate gratification. Like, here's the idea that I have. Someone just tell me how to do it, and then I do it. And so I think that overall, my understanding of a lot of photography related things are not as deep as maybe I would like them to be, because I'm kind of always working like from the top down. So I know that I'm lacking that. And yeah, I suppose I wish that I don't know, had the patience to like, I don't know, try to figure things out myself first, you know?
I mean, but of course I go with this too. Sometimes I have a problem, I need to fix it. But at some point, you know so many different things that you can connect. And then suddenly, like, sometimes you connect all these things together and figure out a new workflow or some kind of exciting new stuff that no tutorial has. Like, sometimes you combine different plugins or different software, and like that combination creates the best. For example, like using different software. Like some people are only using Adobe products, Adobe software, which is fine. You need it, and there are really well thought out workflows that you can follow, and it will work. But then, like, you can use like Virtual Dub and FFmpeg and DaVinci to do some new stuff, maybe.
Yeah,
I like this when I go like outside the traditional workflow, which all tutorials talk about, and which is correct. Just do it differently and figure new stuff out. So I love this stuff, and especially right now we have a lot of time at home. I just mess around with betas and alpha versions of software, and I just love it. Like, sometimes there's a great result.
Yeah, you know, I messed around with what's the name of that plugin? I think Matt Vandepute was telling me that like you've been a big advocate of this plugin for a while, and I actually just used it for the first time recently. What the hell is it called? Like Flicker Free.
Yeah, Flicker Free, for example.
Dude,
yeah.
Holy shit! I was blown. Like, how is it so like? I mean, you know, when I just downloaded the trial version first, right? I was like, okay, let's see what this does. And I would imagine for somebody like you, it's so invaluable because especially with Milky Way stuff that just always wants to flicker, doesn't matter how many times you throw it through LR time lapse, like it has flicker.
Exactly. It's a local flicker. Like you have some parts of the image and it.
Yeah. What is that? Is that just because of the stars, like the difference in brightness of the stars just cause a flicker? Something
it can
like that?
happen. It's a camera. It's noise because you have big splotches of noise sometimes on the camera sensor. So you have like color flickering. It's not even luminance. It's like color changing.
Right.
It fixes that, or it comes from Lightroom. Like Lightroom is not globally editing each. It's content aware basically, and that can induce flicker. So yeah, it's local flicker. And just for example, if you understand the difference between like global and local flicker, global LR timelapse can fix globally, like whole. And then you have plugins like Flickr. And imagine, like, I found this plugin, like, I don't know, 5 years ago or something.
Right. Yeah, life-changing, right?
Different. Neat video, noise reduction.
Oh, yeah. I've been using that one for a while, too.
it's the most magical plugin
Yeah.
for me. Like you put the noise reduction on it, and like boom, it's perfect.
Yeah, dude. Some of the time lapses when I know that I'm going to use like basically any night sky time lapse where I'm shooting at some monstrously high ISO, I will actually use less noise reduction in Lightroom because I know that the noise reduction in Neat is so much better that I'll barely even like I might use 10 or something in Lightroom, not that much.
Exactly. Same here. Same here.
But yeah, man, when I discovered that flicker free thing, I could not believe, because I was just like, time lapse preset, and that dropped down. I was like, I don't think I need to do anything. It looks so good already.
Right.
And
sometimes,
do you know?
For sure.
I mean, I'm sure probably you're at another level, so I'm sure you're probably like, no, you still need to do some things. But my initial sort of first walkthrough, I was like, I can't even believe how good this is. Do you know Emmerich? The time lapser Emmerich?
Yeah, not personally, but yeah, of course, like smaller community. I know some of his videos.
Right. Yeah, he's a friend of mine, and I would say he's kind of similar to you in that he's kind of like a city guy. I mean, he does nature and stuff as well, but he, I guess, has sort of made his name or whatever with kind of having perfect city time lapse type of stuff. But anyway, I mentioned that to him the other day, and I was like, yo, by the way, have you ever tried Flicker Free? And he's like, holy shit, dude, it's so fucking amazing. Like, I can't even believe how awesome this thing is.
I can imagine, especially for city, you have so much more flicker sources from like cars passing by.
Right.
I would probably use it on every shot, or if I do, or when I do city stuff, rarely. Nobody has seen it. I use it all the time.
I was going to ask you, is that just, you just never really, it didn't appeal to you, or what was the...
I guess it's just a natural thing. Like I have nothing against it. It's just, I feel it's much more exhausting shooting in the city. You have to always have you stand by your camera basically. So you can't just walk away and sleep. Like it would just get stolen. Like you have to stand by your camera like all the time and run around, and like it's a much more hectic process. So I'm more relaxed. I love it to be alone, be in a desert, be like in the middle of nowhere. I have no problem with that. So I don't know. It's more natural tendency towards nature, epic emptiness.
So before you were like into photography, or I don't know, maybe you've been doing it your whole life. I don't know, but like, were you into camping and stuff? Like, were you always kind of into the outdoors, and that's kind of how it evolved, or?
I mean, from like when we were small, like, we were always outside. My grandparents have a forest, like in the countryside, and we were a lot in the mountains. So I was around nature all the time. That is right. But we never did camping or anything, or but we were always playing outside. So stuff like that. But camera, I just picked up my first camera when I was 15 or something, and I pretty much immediately got into time-lapse. Like the first time-lapse I did, I had an old Windows 95 webcam from my dad.
No kidding.
And there was a software, like, really old software, like Windows 95.
Right. Yeah, no LR time-lapse, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was the QuickTime 1 or something.
Right.
Like ridiculous, like 0.3 megapixel. And there was a time-lapse button in the software, like, all the webcam sliders. There was this time-lapse thing, and I was just doing, like, again, just messing around. I had my first own computer and whatever. And
so it probably just shot JPEGs at some predetermined interval.
No, it shot video. Something. It shot like compressed video at 140p or something. It was horrible. And then we had a point and shoot in the family, just like everybody has, that shot video and an accelerated video and stuff. And just like 3 years later or something, I realized, or we had a camera that could shoot intervals and photos. And I started from the really, really basic. There was no tutorial on, you have to make it from photos, obviously. Like, what is even like that? That was 2008 or 7 or something. So YouTube was 2 years old.
God. That's so crazy.
I feel old now. Holy shit.
Me too. I mean, like some people that are just, it's funny, like a lot of creators look at a lot of the social media applications that have come out over the years. I think they look at them in the same way that the average person looks at like a stock, and they go, man, I wish I had gotten in at, like I could have bought Tesla when it was $50 or whatever,
Sure.
And I think people look at like Instagram that same way, like Shane Bloom got into Instagram fast, you know what I mean? And we were talking about that. He knows that. He was like, oh, that, was obviously big for him. And then there's other people that like, they got into Instagram super late, and it's like, they won't be able to quite get that, exponential growth that maybe they could have had they gotten into the beginning, or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I see that, of course, like each platform has its golden age, basically. But then on the other hand, I don't regret anything, like in terms of would I have gotten, because I don't know, I had always this view at all these platforms as a marketing tool for me, because what I don't do these videos only for YouTube or only for the general public audience. So I don't make money from Instagram, or it's not dependent on my, like, I don't depend on it. Like, I don't care how many followers I have on Instagram or Facebook or
right,
even YouTube. Like, yeah, I'm big on YouTube, but then what matters in a business sense, in a sense of how I can make a living, is the clients who license it. And there are other ways than social media to get to these, like to get the clients, like, yeah. So
yeah.
I'm not that, like, I'm not end consumer focused. My whole business is business to business. So that's why maybe I'm a bit more relaxed. I say, like, I really mean it. Like, I don't care about the numbers. Like,
yeah. Well, I guess your, like you said, your business and your like approach to, making a living as a photographer is that sort of, it's the OG, the legacy way of doing things, which is like, different from, say, what people that are ambitious maybe right now at this moment are, where they're looking at it as like, I want to be a YouTube star or whatever. Like, that's kind of like the most, like, those are kind of the new rock stars, so to speak, you know what I mean? Or the social media people. And
exactly. But for me, it's different, because I mean, it's great to have a big platform, so a lot of potential clients can see it. That is good. That's why I say it's a platform, it's a marketing tool to find the right people. But 99.99% of people, for them, it's just for fun. They can enjoy it, and I like it, and I like to get the feedback, of course, and I like to just like get feedback. So but yeah, I get a bit of like the ad revenue from YouTube. That's the only money I make from like consumers. Is that the right name? I don't know.
and consumers, I think, probably. The people digesting the content.
So but it's only fine to give it to them for free, where business clients have to pay for it, get a license. But that's a model, like,
By the way, dude, I love the fact that you work with National Geographic. It sounds like, are they like one of your main clients, or
no? I mean, like, most have licensed like a clip or two. Like, Net Geo licensed one for One Stirrings Rock, one of the volcano clips. But I don't work like with like one brand specifically. I work with everyone who wants. So I would not say that I'm like, oh, I work with them and them like specifically, but with for a production. Like, usually it's production, like limited to one production.
How much of what you do would you say is you've decided sort of on your own to go out and shoot something, and then people will then come to you and you'll license their clips to them? And how much of it is like someone maybe says, I want a clip of whatever, I'm going to contact, say, Martin Heck, and maybe like 2 or 3 other photographers, and just see who kind of wins the bid or something? Like, do you kind of deal with both of those things?
Absolutely. But I would say, like, the majority is stock is like going out shooting something and then selling like a couple clips to a production or trade show or something. So it's quite a small part of gigs of jobs for me. Like, when they come, they're usually a bit bigger and like complicated, and that's why they want like somebody shooting custom content,
Right.
because it's not in a library apparently, or it needs to match the style of the production or have specific locations. That's the time when I got a request to go somewhere. But honestly, like 70%, I just throw out a number, just gut feeling. 70% is stock and like selling licenses.
Do you get certain buyers that you just get super psyched about? Like, oh my God, these guys want to buy my clip. Like, does that still feel awesome when it happens?
I mean, come on, for sure. Like some, like I remember it vividly. Like, I don't know, 6-7 years or 5 years ago, even. Like, I was watching like the Planet Earth and stuff at BBC, and that was always my like goal. Like, hey, I want to be involved in that production in whatever way, anything. Like, I want to. And now they like license a couple times. Like BBC licensed a couple times for different productions, like a couple clips. And I think like I have one clip like from 7 Planets, One World, 7. No shit, I'm messing it up. There's a new BBC show.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
7 Worlds, One Planet, I think.
Okay, was that a Netflix or was that just BBC?
That was BBC, and they had my volcano shot, and like David Attenborough was like narrating it over my shots. Oh, nice,
dude. That's it. So, I don't think it gets better than David Attenborough narrating your shit.
Yeah, I mean, hey, this dude has seen it. He has like spoken over it. He has seen my footage.
Wow, that's so awesome.
So that are my like personal goals. Like yes, nice. Then still, I would love to work actually on a production with them, like shooting custom content, shooting stuff. So of course, but maybe one day, like it's nice to. I still have goals, of course, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're young enough guy, like you could easily still do that. I mean, they're going to keep making there's going to be Planet Earth 46, like they're going to keep doing that.
For sure. And Netflix is getting into it a lot. I hear a lot about this, like, they do a lot of natural history stuff. And I mean, that's right, my alley. I love this stuff.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
And anything with science related. So I've done really like a small independent production.
Yeah,
it started in 2016 about like observatories around the world. It's the film is called Star Stuff, and we went to La Palma, South Africa, and Chile to the observatories, and that is just fantastic. I love this stuff. Not only to have these amazing locations, but also the stories and the science behind it, because I love science and physics so much, like all that stuff. I love it. I watch all the new rocket videos on YouTube, and I'm nerd in that stuff.
Yeah.
So
did you
anything like that is fantastic.
Did you see Elon Musk did another podcast with Joe Rogan a couple of days ago?
I'm not watching that many podcasts, but I bet it was interesting. I don't know, what was the topic?
I suppose the topic was Elon. I think I think Joe Rogan is the type of guy who just, he's the biggest podcaster. So he's obviously talked to a lot of impressive people, but I think Elon Musk is that different level of like, holy shit, Elon Musk is on. Like that's even crazier. And so I think when Elon, this was the second time that he's done one with him. And I think when Elon Musk comes on, there's a certain level of like, I just want to hear what this brilliant guy has to say. Like, I don't think he really even has an agenda. So I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but just what an interesting guy. I mean, just like I was talking to somebody about this morning about him and like, why is it that so many like dudes have like a man crush on Elon Musk? And I think the reason why is because, most people, like when you're a kid, kind of going back almost to that, going to the science museum subject, like everyone wants to like be an astronaut. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be an astronaut. Like, that's such a cliche, you know?
Yeah.
I want to go to outer space. And, you know, everyone is always like enamored with like science fiction and aliens and all that stuff. And I think what happens to a lot of people along the line as they grow up, especially, you know, people that maybe are like very brilliant, like an Elon Musk, is a lot of those people kind of go, well, you know, finance is more realistic and it's more profitable, and there's a way to get there, and you know what I mean? Or there's just other jobs that I think end up kind of, you know, stealing away.
Yeah, I mean, reality comes back. I mean,
of course,
not really realistic to become an astronaut.
Right.
So,
yeah. Or any one of those science fiction-y things.
You get it out.
Right. And
at times.
yeah. It's eventually you just go, what am I going to find aliens for my life? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm going to, you know, be a trader and I'm going to make millions of dollars and be very happy. Elon Musk is the guy who I think when he arrived at that fork in the road of like, do I kind of continue this fantasy, or do I turn right? And, you know, I sort of, and I don't want to say like finance is like easy money or anything. I don't want to belittle people that do that at all.
I mean, I guess you have it in the back still, your dream in the back, and make money to fulfill the dream. I don't know. Like, right. Like that.
But I think what's so cool about Elon is that when he got to that fork in the road, he just said, I'm just going to keep doing shit that I think is interesting. And it's ultimately culminated into this guy who, you know, most of the NASA missions are now outsourced to SpaceX. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just amazing the point that this guy has gotten to. It's so absurd.
Definitely impressive. Yeah. He just keeps dreaming and doing it, just doing it.
I know.
That is the thing. On the other side, I mean, it's not all perfect. Like, it's controversial what some stuff is happening, like the Starlink stuff, and like a lot of different, like, it's kind of like it's going so fast ahead that like people are not realizing, or he's even not realizing what the consequences of that are sometimes.
Right.
Like, he's just too fast for everybody, right? I mean, it's fantastic. I love it, like most stuff. But then on the other hand, yeah, it's you have to be like real and realize the consequences of what's happening. So sometimes I feel like, especially with Starlink, I just say like, it's ruining my night sky. Like, what the fuck, really? I mean, couldn't you have tested that before? I mean, just wait 1 or 2 years, test it, and then shoot it up. I mean, what?
before having the 7,000 that are in the sky now, or whatever his goal is.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not all about Elon. I mean, I'm generally interested in technology and science. Like, I'm equally interested in airplanes, or like the telescopes there, or whatever, my camera tech, or computers, like building computers and optimizing workflows and stuff. Like, I mean, that's nerd territory.
Oh, for sure. It is. But that's fine. I mean, hey, you know, if at least you know it, you know what I mean? There's no point in hiding it now.
Yeah. And some of that stuff helps, like what I do, like knowing computers really well. Like, I like to build computers. I like to solve problems. I like to optimize. I know so many people hate it. Like, computers just there to work. But if you build it yourself or understand it, you get better at processing, more efficient, like all that stuff. So
well, plus, like, if you're a time-lapse photographer, I mean, like, all the time-lapse photographers that are going to watch this and have watched some of the other ones with Matt and Emmerich and Michael, and you know, like, having a super ballsy computer is insanely helpful when you're trying to, you know, watch and edit something in real time that is just so monstrous in size. You know what I mean?
I mean, that is true, of course, just having horsepower. But then I think what's even more important is how to use it, because often the software is the bottleneck. For example, After Effects. You can have the ballsiest computer ever, is whatever, like 64 cores. and it will only run on 4 CPU cores, no matter what you do. And you think like, if you don't understand how computers work or software work, you think like, what bullshit is that? And to be fair, it is bullshit. Like Adobe can't figure it out 10 years to use more cores in After
Yeah, that
Effects.
is weird. I didn't know. So they don't have any sort of multi-threaded capability?
There has been the CS6 and After Effects 2014 was running on multiple cores, but yeah, the way it was working, but you had to understand it quite well to not make it crash.
Right.
Which is not good for general consumers or general users, even though it's a special program, but so many use it, and there have been more complaints than, so they ditched it basically.
Right.
And they focused on optimizing it for laptops and like mobile, and I mean, for most people that's fine. But
yeah, not for Martin Heck.
yeah, and studios and production companies like they have server farms. So, I mean, it's just again one example. Any software has its limitations, and if you know how to like utilize your computer well, like launch it multiple times, use different effects, know what the plugins do, like if they use a GPU or CPU, how much RAM, can you run them 4 times, does it bottleneck somewhere else? I mean, it's a complicated thing. It's a complicated thing to juggle, but
yeah,
if you want to dive into it, there's a great benefit to it. Like you can make your workflow so much faster.
Yeah. Dude,
I had to, because I started 8K in 2015, like 5 years ago, and it was ridiculous. Like it took forever. So I did everything I could to just optimize it and like utilize the CPU as much as possible. I always wanted pinned at 100%, because that is definitely the fastest the computer can do.
Right.
So it's not the software.
Yeah, Matt was saying that when he talked to you recently, like, what was it? You have like one of your computers has like 256 gigabytes of RAM or something like insane like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that about right?
That's right. Yeah.
Dude, that's so outrageous. Do you ever play games on any of your machines? Just to like try it out?
I play a bit of games, but I mean, it's just like using like 1% or 5% or something.
Everything's at like max settings probably.
It's it is, of course, but then that's not what I bought it for. Like,
of course,
anybody
not.
Buying that for gaming, that's stupid.
Yeah. That is.
For example, the RAM is a good point. Like, no software on its own uses that much that I use. Like After Effects, Elder Timeless, Lightroom, DaVinci, maybe uses like 50 gigs or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have also a lot of cores, 32 cores. So I launch After Effects like 5 times, 8 times to render in parallel. So, and each of this instance needs a lot of RAM, let's say 30 gigs. And suddenly, boom, all the RAM is full. So, and you couldn't run it 8 times if you didn't have that much RAM. So it needs to be balanced. Like each core needs that much RAM, and you can scale it up from that. Same with graphics cards. If you want to run 8 times this composition, if it has an effect with GPUs used in it, your graphics card needs to handle 8 times that effect at the same time. So
you must have multiple graphics cards as well.
No, I only have one. So, but I know that my graphics card can handle 2 instances of 8K denoising, for example, with that plugin with Neat Video. But I mean, you see the point to like allocate resources to know what you need for each effect, for each render, depending on like each settings even. So it's complicated, but then if you figure that stuff out, it's so valuable. It's so fun to use, because you have this expensive machine and it runs at 100% stable for 3 days. And you think like, that would have taken like 2 weeks 5 years ago, or with my old computer. And it's a combination of all these things that makes me happy too. Like I like to see like, yeah, that is maxed out, that is effective, nice.
Yeah, that's
money
just
well
the
spent.
right.
Because I don't like to spend much money. That is like, all that stuff is really expensive, but if it serves the purpose, that's really nice. And
Yeah. No, I feel that, man. It's so therapeutic to have something that's just so good at what it does. It's also very German, I would say. You know what I mean? Just like, it's so German to just like have that perfect machine. You know what I mean?
yeah, I don't know, like maybe to have this effectiveness, but who likes to have to buy a new computer and see it running at 20%?
Yeah.
And then I think like I have to do everything I can. I have to figure it out to make it more effective, because I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have that time. I don't spend that much money to have 20% utilization. Like, what is that? That is
Right.
I don't need to buy a new computer for that.
So do you is part of the reason that you, maybe to clarify, like you're saying you're running like multiple instances of After Effects at the same time. So you're just rendering like 10 clips at once or something? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah. So far, I did it exactly like that. There's a little command line tool built in After Effects called AE Render. It's meant for render farms, and you can also, that enables you to launch multiple renderers of After Effects manually and assign a clip to each. You can do that manually, and that's fine. I've done that for years. And recently, there's a new tool called Render Garden. I think Matthew is going to do a tutorial about that. Because I told him like recently, and he was also like, holy, that is so good. I just got a new computer. It's so much faster. And that automates a lot of that stuff. So you just say like, hey, render 8 instances. Can even divide your clips in a couple segments to render a single clip faster.
Right.
And all this stuff. It still requires you to understand how the workflow really goes or it works, and how your resources are used and what resources you have. But it's much easier now. So yeah, it's called Render Garden.
Cool.
And it's sweet. I tell you, like if you have a like powerful computer, it's like flicker free. It's like this. Whoa! We did some benchmarks, and he has a MacBook, and it's new 2020 MacBook, and it's awesome, and he can run like 2 or 3 instances on it, and we tested with the same clips, did kind of a benchmarking, and it took like 10 minutes on his computer, and it legit took like 1 minute and 2 seconds on my computer. And we also tested the same thing with stock After Effects settings, and it took exactly the same time.
Wow.
So like it took 10 minutes on his MacBook and 10 minutes on my NASA PC.
Yeah.
So you see like where I come from with Render Garden, like, wow, 10 times speed increase? What?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's kind of ridiculous that a third-party plugin does what
better than
Adobe should do, but
OEM. Yeah, totally.
Then if you find something like this yourself without a tutorial or something, like, that's so satisfying.
Oh, totally.
And
yeah.
You see, like it. That's why I do this stuff. Sometimes I find stuff like this, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
is the reason that like speed of render so important to you because you have like a lot of hard deadlines for some of these projects? Is a lot of it that?
Not that much. Like, of course, sometimes on a job we have a deadline, but honestly, that depends on how much time you said upfront you need, because some things just can't be rendered quicker.
Yeah.
Like if I come back from a job and I have like 100 clips with 8K, and that's gonna take, just from the amount of work, not even render time, that's gonna take 4 weeks to go through everything. No, and honestly, like I had so much footage that I couldn't render as much as shooting new stuff, like even on personal projects. Like the Nox Atacama trip, I was 1 month shooting, and it took like 6 weeks of rendering 24/7 with my old computer, which was fast too. Like it's a good computer. I still have
sure
it.
It was.
So if you have any kind of period where you shoot a lot of stuff, you get a backlog that is crazy. And when rendering 24/7, so a new computer or a faster machine definitely wasn't needed. So
yeah,
because I know for a lot of photographers, the main thing that takes most time is the actual editing and like tweaking and stuff. And in photography, rendering is non-existent. You render it and maybe it takes a minute or something, or maybe if you do panels, it takes a couple minutes, but it takes days, weeks. Like in my kind of workflow, that is a massive part, like just rendering, and I can't do anything. Like in this time, what do I do? Watch Netflix? I can't work on my computer.
Yeah. So you have like a machine that's specifically for rendering now, right?
I have my old computer on a server here. I got like a little server rack thingy.
Yeah.
That I use when I have and I have client work and need to do things in parallel.
Right.
Right now, I don't render that much, but yeah, like I have 2 full workstations that I can switch to and also assign different tasks. And like I have a network and with NAS, and I can just, for example, I can export Lightroom TIFFs from the server onto my computer and work on the work in After Effects while Lightroom is still exporting like more files. So it's like how do you call it when in car manufacturing have this
assembly line,
assembly line thing, like one. I mean, it's
right.
If I would hear myself speaking like 10 years ago, like, oh, this guy has like a computer only for his Lightroom exports and another computer for After, like what?
Right. It does seem crazy, yeah. But but you're right. I mean, if all you're doing is 8K, it's like it's such a sick amount of data. I mean, like when you come back from one of the Atacama trips, how many you must have terabytes, I would think, of stuff to get through, right? Like what's like an average Martin Heck, trip?
Yeah, it's like 7 to 10 terabyte in raw footage, and then you create a lot of more like data because you're rendering it into master files like ProRes files or something, and they take a lot of space too. And I can go into the computer parts, like when you render with so many cores at the same time, a normal hard disk can't handle it. Because you're basically feeding like whatever you have, 32 cores, you have to feed 32 streams of raw data into the CPU, and a normal hard drive can't do it mechanically, physically.
Right.
You need SSD storage, and that's really expensive. And but understanding that the way a hard drive works, like understanding how a hard drive works, helps you get faster with your workflow.
Right.
And that's what I'm always saying, like, sometimes unrelated thing. Why would I need to know how a hard drive works when I want to shoot time lapse? You don't, but it helps.
Yeah. Well, especially if you've done rendering for years and years, and eventually like can I just make this 20% faster, because that would give you days back.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just I'm exampling here very powerful computers, but any computer, that's true for any kind of computer. So it not only applies to the super high-end, like if you have any kind of computer to know how it works and to utilize it, makes you better, faster, and besides just shooting. So you see, we talk a lot about post-production.
Yeah, well, I kind of figured that might happen. But this is probably the most technical podcast I've done so far.
We don't have to, honestly. Like,
well,
I nerd out. I like to nerd out. But.
Well, I am curious a little bit. Like a second ago, you said sending the TIFFs over from Lightroom. So does that mean that you're not creating the render from the raw files? Like you still go through the LR time-lapse process of creating the TIFFs? You don't find that you need to to put the raw files straight into After Effects?
That's a perfect example of efficiency. So before I found this render garden tool for After Effects, that kind of rendering from RAWs to a video file in After Effects was super slow because only used 4 cores, and the manual assembly of a render thingy was tedious. So rendering TIFFs from Lightroom was super efficient because Lightroom got a really good update like 2 years ago to use all cores, whatever. It uses all cores super efficiently. So that's when I went into exporting TIFFs, because it's just the fastest way to render your RAWs.
But you didn't see any
TIFFs
kind
are
of
only temporary. You work on them anyway in After Effects, and they get deleted once the finished video file is done. So, and TIFF is really nice because it's a big file, but it takes very little processing power to work with because it's not compressed. So you don't have to decompress or compress the files. It's basically uncompressed, which makes it easy on the CPU and super hard on the SSDs or hard drive. But
so you didn't see
this
like
kind of evaluate. You see, like we are at it again. It's efficiently.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess what I'm curious about is I always assumed that just working directly with the raw file would be like this big difference in quality, but you don't. I guess you must not see a noticeable enough difference, I guess.
No, TIFF is uncompressed. It's 16-bit uncompressed. It's the best quality you can get because quality is not lost. It's lossless.
Right. Well, then I guess I'll start doing TIFFs instead of just loading in the raw files because I know that's slowing it down.
I would say right now, if you want to use Render Garden or only have 4 cores or maxing out with After Effects your computer anyway, you can do it that way. It's just After Effects didn't max out the machine I had. That's why I used Lightroom.
Right.
So if you can max out your raw renders in After Effects, no problem. No reason to change to TIFF. Especially now, like with Render Garden, there are ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Now that I'm working with like a render machine, a render server, it's easier with TIFFs because you like TIFFs are nicely to transfer and it's a sequence. So if the render crashes or whatever, you can just start the sequence. Like you don't have to render from the beginning.
Right.
So in some ways, like image sequences are nice to work with, are good. They also have their like negative sides, like the hard drive, SSD, the space. So then, then also understanding codecs and formats is really helpful too. You see, like I'm talking like TIFF 16-bit is perfect because it's uncompressed, but for example, JPEG 8-bit is bad because you get banded, you get compression artifacts. And then you have ProRes and H.264 and HEVC and whatever. And understanding these kind of codecs, how compression works, how bit depth works, how color spaces work, is really good to know. Like it's not nice to learn. It's
right.
It's hell.
Ugly.
It's awful.
Yeah.
But when you figured it out and got through it, it's so beneficial. It's so good. Because a lot of people ask me like, how do you get this quality and stuff? And there's not a single answer. The whole podcast now is the answer.
Right.
And I could go on. Please stop me.
Right. Well, I am curious. So like I tend to, anything that I want to output as high quality, I tend to use ProRes, but it sounds like you're saying that I know ProRes is like, I guess technically one of the better ones, but you're saying it depends. Like it might not always be ProRes.
I would say almost always. I mean, it's a big file. It has great bit depth. I master my time lapses in ProRes, so it is generally really good.
Yeah.
But understanding that ProRes, the benefits of ProRes over H.264, for example, that is the difference between slightly bad quality and good quality. You need to train your eye to see that. So I have people that just don't know and just render their the time lapses into H.264 and then apply like whatever denoising on that, render it again, then cut it, render it again, upload it to YouTube, and YouTube converts it again. So you have 4 times conversion, and that crushes your quality.
Yeah.
Should just being aware of this kind of workflow and and making sure to lose as little quality as you can when going from one step to the other to the next.
Yeah. It's so true, man. In fact, I told you earlier in the podcast that I showed my wife like some of your time-lapse films, and she was like, this is so great. Like, I'm gonna because she sometimes teaches yoga as well, and she was like, I would like to have this like up, on the screen. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. But one of the things that I noticed is that, and especially this is like a long-winded compliment basically, but a lot of photographers and time-lapsers, and even I think some of the people that are pretty good, maybe not like masters, but good, and myself included, like, it's so tempting to want to like saturate color, for example, too much, or to over sharpen, or to just over clarity, and like all of these things that people are so guilty of. And
everybody has been there.
Of course. Right. Yeah. And I'm sure you had to train it out of yourself or something.
Yeah.
But it's so tempting to do, because, hey, like everyone loves a really red sunset or whatever it is. But, as I've gotten better, I'm starting to be very well aware of the people that went too far and the people that went all the way up to the final. Like, if I do a little bit more, it's not going to look right, but I get the most out of it that I can. And I bring this up from the YouTube thing because there are so many times when I'll see footage on YouTube and I'll think, there's YouTube doing its thing. It took all the life out of this clip. And I'm sure you probably still feel this way about your own stuff. But when I watch a lot of your stuff on YouTube, I'm still very impressed with how sharp everything still looks and how the colors just seem exactly as they should be. I never look at it and I go, he went a little bit too far with this sunset. I go, the sunset looks amazing and it looks exactly realistic, exactly how it should.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have the experience, to have the trained eye, to not overdo things, because I'm guilty too, like the clarity thing. And I love that. Back in the day, then you see my older uploads, way more clarity in there. You see the halos around the little bit halo stuff. And I just didn't know better, right? I didn't know. You also see some of these videos that have really bad compression because, I didn't know. Like ProRes, what is that? Like way bigger file, right? I can't afford that big SSDs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tempting to save on space, to save on speed, to make things faster, to not go the extra step to deflicker, to fix the tiny things. But all these add up. And like when you add like 4 lazy steps together, you see it. So then the compression thing with YouTube, of course, you have the bending, and that's why I try to input to YouTube a perfect file, basically, and then let YouTube do the thing that's going to do anyway.
Right.
But to avoid it, like make the best thing up to the upload, like until I upload.
So will you do H.264 for YouTube then? Or will you still do ProRes?
No. Yeah, ProRes I could do, but it's my internet connection can't handle it.
Right.
I can't upload 50
gigabyte. Right.
Films. So I did a lot of tests, like all over the time with YouTube. I was always maxing out the YouTube, like what YouTube had to offer, because I think my Patagonia 8K was the first time-lapse video uploaded in 8K to YouTube.
Oh,
there were some stuff with Ever,
shit.
There were some stuff with the Red and like multi-camera rigs testing, but I was like, I want to be the first, and like 8K on YouTube. 2015, 8K on YouTube.
I know.
What?
I know. It's crazy even now, let alone 5 years ago.
yeah, I did a lot of tests, like uploading different codecs, different formats internally, and seeing what quality is the best result on YouTube. And things change. So right now I'm uploading 10-bit H.265 HEVC
Really?
to YouTube, because YouTube is going to crush it down to 8-bit VP9 codec. That's open source codec.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but 10-bit, you'd input banding free content and really high bit rate. So that's the best. ProRes would be even better, but again, not feasible.
Right. I feel like this is the part I'm writing this down.
A long time YouTube didn't support HEVC because it was a licensing thing. It's not an open source codec, and they didn't support every codec. So a long time I had to use different formats and really high bit rates and stuff. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, it's tedious.
Yeah.
It's tedious, but I'm the person who likes to go the extra mile.
Right. Yeah, clearly. You know a lot of shit, man. I mean, I'm into this stuff.
Does this whole thing has any kind of like structure we are talking here? I'm just rambling.
No, that's fine. I don't
like anytime you say something, I know this, and I have something to say about that.
No, I feel the same. It's funny because
you have to guide me a bit.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I feel like for the last 15 or 20 minutes or so, I've been thinking to myself, we're probably too in the weeds here, and we probably do need to navigate out. But then you'll say something and I'll go, ooh, and then I have to feast on that for a moment as well. And then I just never can get out of it. So I'm just as guilty.
It's fun. Like, sometimes I would love to do tutorials and stuff like this, but whenever I start talking about anything, it goes on.
You just go too far.
So much work. Yeah, I go too far, and it's so much work to condense it into an understandable form, because you can process it that much. What kind of tutorial would it be like for me? 10 hours rambling about everything I know?
Yeah,
that would be ridiculous. That's
unstructured conversation about
yeah. And well, I know from friends, like Morten did a tutorial, or some friends do tutorials, or Matthew, Mike Chamberlain too, and they talk about how crazy much work it is.
Yeah.
And I'm just too lazy. And I always say, like, hey, my friends do fantastic tutorials. I don't want to. Right.
Well, I was going to mention, I know that like you and Matt have, I guess, collaborated on a couple of things now. You guys might be like the perfect, team, because he's like really good at sort of the, I don't know, like the top down teaching stuff. Like he's so good at that, and you're so good at
more extrovert. Yeah, like I'm that introvert nerd guy who's crazy about his stuff. But
right. But together, you guys
now that I'm talking on
the
a
ultimate
public podcast.
Yeah,
that is first time ever.
Right. No, I think it's super valuable, man, and especially 10-bit H.265. I'm writing this down for all my YouTube uploads going forward. But
collaborating, I enjoyed that a lot. I started with that more. Like, I always was in contact, like in the time-lapse community. We know each other for years, but when it comes to like actually doing stuff, like this year, I was in Norway with Morten Rustad, doing little collaborations with Matthew, and like that's fantastic. That's awesome, because like I learn a lot with that too. Like Matthew did a tutorial about After Effects and like our collaboration with the rotating sky, and he used like a couple of shortcuts in After Effects. Like, did he just press N? Yeah. I was like, yo, that's so useful. Totally out of context. Like, I know how to do the startering. Yeah, but he pressed N. That is sick.
Yeah. It's funny, the stuff that will rub off on you with other people, like shit that they've done for like a decade, and you're like, are you serious? I didn't even know that.
Right, exactly, that kind of stuff. So you still learn. Also with Morten, like I've never seen other time lapses working in the field. We always do our thing, but how do people work? And feel like just watching somebody else doing the same stuff that I do, but differently. that is awesome. You learn so much, like and you
Right.
use different gear and like different cameras, and like that is sweet. And then on the other hand, we do a lot in the same exact way. So like just thinking about shots so on the same wavelength. We met the first time and we didn't even have to talk. We just know what we're doing now, like exactly. Like you don't even have to like do what you are doing now. Like no, that's absolutely clear.
Yeah. So you guys,
that is awesome.
I'm not exactly sure what the arrangement is, but are you guys sort of like co-owners of Time Storm, or like
No,
I'm not sure about that.
No, completely separate. Like he has his own company Views. He has even a couple of employees or like collaborating space and a nice studio and stuff. And no, we just like he was visiting. We met a couple of times. Once in Santiago. Once he came over here, and we just said like, hey, we both always go alone into the middle of nowhere, and we always go into like nature and middle of nowhere, and let's do something new, like something that refreshes and gives us both like new input, because we're doing that for so many years. It's the dream job and we're quite good at it, but it got kind of boring. So it's like, hey, do I go to Atacama and shoot Nox Atacama 4? I mean, what new can I bring? So we wanted to go to Seoul and shoot like a cyberpunk hyperlapse craziness thing, like super crazy. Like we're not city guys, we are not hyperlapse guys.
Right.
We wanted to do something next level crazy, and we booked everything and so on. And Corona came and we had to cancel it, but it was still okay to travel in Europe because Korea was first. So I just said, fuck it, car, go to Norway, visit him in his backyard, basically.
Cool.
So that's where this recent collaboration happened. And we will still go to Seoul when it's possible.
Dude, I'm psyched about that. You got me super psyched just now when you said I want to do some crazy shit.
Psych ourselves like, like, man, we should do something great. Yeah, you should. Yeah, okay. Because we wanted to do something new. We got kind of a bit bored. Like,
right.
Yeah,
I've got to figure that.
And we have always this mutual like what's the name? Like inspiration,
interest,
and like I'm always saying like, oh, your work is so awesome, but it's so much better than mine. The other guy says the exact same thing.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah,
and I love it. Like, why don't we just, because we are both good, we know so much stuff. If we combine, just can be better, right?
Yeah, dude, I would love to see that. And I have to figure. I've never been to Seoul personally, but I've
neither.
Seen
like,
photos.
That is also like we want to put ourselves in completely
in a new
space.
That's awesome, dude. You will be so fired up about all the shots that you are just going to dork out so hard. It's going to be so fun,
and be probably super exhausted because either we both are calm, quiet persons, and just these dudes are doing cyberpunk in Seoul. Like, we probably get blasted by the impressions.
Yeah. But dude, like I would imagine that Seoul is probably one of the best places on the planet for like hyperlapse, because the city is so crazy looking. It's so well lit.
Have you been? I don't know.
Well, no, I haven't, but I've seen plenty of pictures of Seoul, and I think this is true about a lot of cities in Southeast Asia where they're just like circuit board looking. They're so high tech. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that comes through in the architecture and the lighting and everything.
The high tech and then the grunginess of things, like. Yeah, like we wanted. Did you watch Altered Carbon or this kind of style? This kind of dark, like dystopian, but then super high tech, modern thing. That combination and the lights, and we also found like a pretty hardcore soundtrack. I won't disclose what, but I guess most viewers that usually subscribe to my channel would be like, whoa, what's happening now? But
it's usually ambient, ethereal, wild.
Yeah, or like the large orchestral that has a bass punching, like bad.
Yeah, Yeah, that's
So,
sick, man. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It sucks that you couldn't do it, but
we just do it sometime else. Like currently we're like wanting to do it in fall, but honestly, like we can do it anytime. Like we'll see. So
yeah.
it's a personal project. There's no deadlines, so we do it when it's possible. So
yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome, man. And he does really great work too. And I suppose the stuff that you guys do is very similar because he tends to be a wildlife, not wildlife, but nature.
So similar, like
type of guy.
Like pretty much the same that I do. Everybody has a different style. Like I always say, he has a more cinematic style. Like I have a bit more colorful epic. It's not that cinematic in a sense.
Like you're more sort of documentary and he's more cinematic.
Yeah, or more. I'm more like the stuff that plays on in the Best Buy on the TVs. Like
totally.
And he's like actually more cinematic. That could fit in a documentary really well, and in a feature film. Like I can do that too. That's
like detail shots. Things like that.
Detail shots have a depth of field. Like I rarely do anything that is out of depth of field. Like everything is in focus because I kind of learned it from the client request that they like everything super sharp.
Right.
That's what I do. That's why I developed. But and he does a more like depth of field.
He shoots more like F4 stuff. That kind of.
Yeah, or right. Yeah, just have a foreground and the background not in focus. Which is not usually what I do. But,
right.
I mean, there's a difference. Like I love this too, so I love the style, and it's good to collaborate, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to the soul thing. I think that'll be I think that'll be really cool because I can tell, like, I know how good you are and I know how seriously you take it and how all this culmination of learning and failure and everything has gotten you to the point to where you are today. But then when you can kind of step to the side for a moment and say, dude, we're going to go to Seoul. We have no idea what we're doing. We're going to up the ante. It's going to be fucking awesome. Yeah. I hear you say that and I go, damn,
out of the comfort zone. Yeah. And we're developing like new motion control gear and stuff. Like I won't show you or talk it now, but we have some new stuff like developed.
Yeah, that's cool.
And obviously we have our inspiration too. Like, of course, we have some videos like people with drone, like some crazy Russians that fly their drone through Hong Kong and stuff like that. And we say like, hey, let's do something like this, but with time lapse in 8K 60 and whatever.
Right.
Just max it.
Right. Have you been to Hong Kong before?
I've been to Hong Kong like ages ago. I was so young. That was my first international trip alone.
Oh, really?
I went to Hong Kong for 5 days, and to New Zealand for 3.5 months, and then to Tokyo for another week. And I was so flat. I was so flashed. That's
awesome. Yeah, Hong Kong has got that one view. It's almost become a cliche. Like everyone shoots from this one location.
Victoria Peak, probably.
I think so.
I got this shot too. I got like 5 shots from Hong Kong. I got that.
Yeah. I don't see that many time lapses from up there. I see a lot of like still photos. So I would think that a time lapse up there would just be just so crazy.
Yeah. I have seen so many time lapses too,
to
be honest. So we were talking about where do we shoot it, like Hong Kong or maybe Singapore or something. But Hong Kong, honestly, they're fantastic time-lapse videos about Hong Kong, and we just wanted something fresh. Mm-hmm. Singapore was too modern for cyberpunk. It's like Singapore is futuristic AF. Like it's the future, and it's not grungy at all. It's so clean, it's perfect. Which is not a topic, but for us, we wanted some small alleyways and
interesting
dark places and like grungy. That's right.
Yeah.
With the modernity, and we thought Seoul is perfect. It's very safe to do that because running around at night with like bad looking places that are totally fine to
that are still totally safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's cool that you were so selective on a location. Did you ever consider Bangkok? Because I kind of get that vibe a little bit about Bangkok because it's a very like sweaty, steamy, dust, smog kind of place,
Exactly. We were kind of considering it, but when we looked like how the weather is there all the time, we said, no, fuck it. That will kill us, because both of us are cold weather types.
Oh, yeah.
If it gets above 30 degrees, I don't know, like that 70, 80 Fahrenheit.
Something like that, I think, yeah. Not that hot.
I stopped working already. Like, I don't need that. And humidity. I've been to India 2 times in winter, which was quite nice, but I could already get a feel for how it would be in summer then. And I said, like, no.
Yeah.
For holiday, yes, but if I'm working somewhere, like, it's...
I just lost you. You still there? So you were saying basically that just Bangkok was out because it was like, fuck that, it's too hot there, more or less.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, we didn't dive too deep into it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe sometime. I don't know. You have been to Bangkok. I just skipped a bit over your YouTube channel, and I saw some Bangkok time lapses there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a while ago. I've since gotten quite a bit better, I think, at shooting. But Bangkok is a cool city. It's such a, like, all the things that people say about Bangkok, like I think are true. Like, it's a very, it's a huge city. I mean, it really is a lot bigger than you would think. And it's the reason that I brought it up was because you were talking about how we didn't want something that was too futuristic, but we wanted the cool architecture and we wanted that, like, kind of, I don't know, like dirty vibe.
The contrast, basically, the contrast. Like, we are in the future, but the future isn't always shiny. That kind of dystopian, like you said before. Yeah. And Bangkok is interesting because it's so old and new at the same time. There's so many, like, it's like they've got that big hotel that The Hangover was filmed at. What's it called? Like Le Bua or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
We stayed there, and it's like one of those things where, like, every room above the 40th floor has like this big balcony. So it was just the type of thing where, granted, I was still kind of figuring out time lapse, but so I probably wasn't as in tune with, like, composition and, like, what's actually a composition that's worth shooting. But regardless, it was like, we showed up, we got there at like 2 a.m. from our flight. And I just, like, opened up the doors on the balcony. I looked out and I was like, oh my God, it's just a sea of buildings. And then of course you get the river traffic, which is great for time lapse because all the boats light up. And, but yeah, it's like a weird city that's a combination of, like, old and new. You've got all these just old, temples and things, and then you've got these crazy, new buildings at the same time, and it's got a cool vibe, that city.
Yeah, and I guess any city would give that to me because, like you don't have big cities here in Europe, like in Germany, especially. Like, our cities are like towns to most other, like, actually big cities. So anytime I see skyscrapers or something, or like can't see the end of the city, I'm like, wow, wow, that is amazing. And then, like, other people come here where I live in the mountains, like, pretty impressive steep mountains, and they are like, wow, that's so awesome. I like, that's how it is here. Right. So for me, city is the epic, the wow thing, the new thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting, man. It really does come down to perspective, I think. If you're I have neither, unfortunately. I live in, like, the suburbs. So, like, I don't have.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know both, right? But I guess that's also why a lot of people like my kind of videos, because they come to these incredible places like Patagonia, or these places are so epic. Like, it's not, if you have been in a city all your life or have never seen the Milky Way or real good stars, I see where the fascination comes from. And so then the same thing is for me. Like, I would love to go to New York, not now, but like New York. I think that would be like Patagonia to a New Yorker.
Right. Dude, yeah, you should come to New York, man. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, Emmerich and I were supposed to go up there and shoot some stuff with have you ever heard of NLapse or that Tiki camera?
Yeah, they actually hit me up. I don't know, they wanted to send me one to try out. It's really nice, interesting. Didn't work out. I don't know, we just lost contact or things happened.
Right.
So yeah, tell me, like, you're an ambassador, or how does that?
Yeah. So so I gonna make some content for them and like do a full review of it and everything. And I think I kind of got there sort of surprisingly. Like, frankly, I didn't think that they would give me the opportunity to do that because I don't have a big social media following. But I have been looking for new clients in terms of time-lapse stuff, and I happen to have some connections in the construction industry, and I know that one of their big like verticals for this camera is with construction. So I kind of reached out and said, look, I think maybe I can really use this and get into this space using this camera. And of course, if I get one client, I'm immediately going to have to purchase another one, et cetera. And so it kind of made sense. And then, of course, right as the momentum was going, that's when the pandemic happened. And so I'm kind of like hoping that these things are still going to work out. But that was the gist of it. Is I felt I could use that for some construction clients.
Exactly. And yeah, for me too, because I'm always looking to do new stuff, and like long-term time lapse is exactly something like that I would love to do. It just it never had a reason to do it, or
right.
I currently have a self-built DSLR webcam thingy running at my family's house in the Dolomites.
Oh, that's cool.
It's running for a year now, so I can do like 1 year seasonal cycle thingy.
That's awesome.
I just want to create content to show somebody that I can do that stuff, because otherwise you will never get hired to do that.
Yeah.
If you can't show that you can do it.
Yeah. Is the objective of that shot to, like, seasonality, or like is that kind of what you snow to summer and that kind of thing?
Snow, fall, color, summer, exactly.
Yeah, that'll be really cool.
I mean, I don't have construction thing going on. Otherwise, that's a good subject too.
Right.
Some friends are doing the indoor studio time-lapse, plants growing time-lapse.
Yeah.
That is really cool too. Then I just don't have a space like that big that I'm there, like that I near to where I live. So,
I would like to give that a shot, doing some plant growth stuff. I think you just need really good constant lighting. I think that's the thing that I'm missing.
Yeah, and you need to have like a box. But then a friend of mine from Sweden just did like a 5-day time lapse of like birch roots growing, like the first leaves coming out. Just 5 days in his closet. Like it was like a little cabinet under the sink. Like you just close it, light in there, old camera, like a 60D or something. Like, I mean, perfectly fine.
And just changes the batteries every 4 hours.
Yeah, he has I think it's on wall power or something.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, that's not that hard.
No, not really. Especially if you have the light box. All you really the constant
even
lighting.
like light, like you have constant power. Easy. Like you need one LED and a little gel, and boom.
I should do.
I think the hardest part is probably to keep the plants alive.
Yeah, right. Especially if they're
in
yeah. Well, you can also do the decay time lapse. You can do the plant, like what, maybe once you're sort of done with the flowers and you go, well, I'm just going to throw them in the light box.
Honestly, the reason I didn't do that here is because having that kind of decay thing in my flat starts stinking and rotting. Like, no, I don't want that here.
Yeah, dude, it's funny because I've actually been thinking about this a little bit the last few days, because my wife got some flowers from her mother for Mother's Day, which is tomorrow. And so I saw the flowers and I was like, I kind of want to watch these things decompose in a time lapse, but it's like, I can't just take your nice Mother's Day flowers and just like I'm actually going to watch them die. Thanks. It's like a morbid thought. Happy Mother's Day. I'm taking your flowers and I'm filming them.
I watched them dying slowly.
Yeah, exactly. But then I sped it up.
Yeah. No, I mean, you see, like there are a lot of things to time lapse, and just to be aware with that thought, to see the world and see the things that change over time, like that makes the whole thing so interesting, right? I mean, to show people what's happening around them that they don't see, but everybody sees it, but don't see it, doesn't see it. So
right, yeah. Matt said something about this the other day. Or actually, no, it wasn't the other day. It was, what was it? He posted that article that he did for like The Guardian Australia or something. He posted something on his Facebook the other day. And it was that old like interview, I guess, that The Guardian did with him as this professional time-lapse photographer. And he had this one quote, which was articulated very well. And I'm going to totally say it, but it was something like what you're saying, where he basically said, I like time lapse because it allows you to, see into this world that does exist, but we can't exactly see. And I'm butchering it, but it was very well.
I remember. I remember. Like, no, but it's not like I say, predicting the future, at least for your time of the shot. So that's the thing. The fourth dimension. I don't know.
Right. By the way, man, I wanted to ask you, have you ever gotten a chance to meet Yuri Beletsky going to the Atacama all those times?
Yeah, man. But totally unplanned. That's the best thing. Like, I was on this job for the observatory documentary thing, and I was at the Paranal Observatory in Chile. And we had the media pass, and we had this official thing. We had 2 nights there shooting on the platform, and set everything up, and then like this dude with a red light comes up with like 2 other people, and I said like, hey, stop, don't mess with my time lapse. And he was like, oh, you're time lapsing, that's really cool. And like, and it's dark, you don't see who he is. And it was Yuri with a like little private workshop. And
that's really funny
because he's an astronomer. He had this access without like, he didn't have to schedule it so much. And we were just like, oh man, you're here. And we just scheduled for like, they went to the other telescope for half of the night, and then we went other way around and stuff. So we met at the at the telescope in Chile.
In a very awkward, hey man, don't touch my fucking camera. Oh my God, you're Yuri.
Who are you? Like, are you running my time? Like, I'm here for a job.
Yeah, he's like, dude, I study space.
And it wasn't like that.
I know.
It's really friendly. I mean, you know him. So that was fantastic.
I had him on a few weeks ago.
I watched the full thing.
Did you?
Full thing.
That's awesome. Dude, I felt, to be honest, I was a little concerned about it because I felt so out of place, because he's such a smart guy. And I realized that like a lot of my questions were so like at an elementary level. And I was like, I didn't think they were so elementary until I started talking to him, and then I was like, oh my God. I love
that, honestly, because that are exactly the same questions I would have, or like, that made him explain all the things so well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I was like, a little bit, I thought it was funny, like, because you said like, hey, when you get the image from the telescopes and stuff. And I was thinking, like those telescopes oftentimes don't even output an image. Right. They output some crazy graphs or something, and like you have spectrograms and stuff like that.
Yeah, you take the raw data and turn that.
Doesn't output an image.
Right.
So I was like, but I can totally relate. Like, absolutely. I love that you asked these questions, because that explained a lot. And
it was really cool to talk. My favorite part about that podcast was how was when I kept trying to get to like, what are you actually like doing? Like, what are some of the new things that you're studying? And eventually it was like, oh, well, I'm looking for habitable planets. And I was just like, yes, like, that's what I wanted to hear. You know what I mean? And essentially it's funny because he's such a scientist type of brain that I don't think he's necessarily looking at it in the same way that the layman is, where I'm just like, dude, I just want to talk about aliens, bro. And he's kind of like, it takes him a second to kind of get there. And eventually he's like, oh yeah, right. Yeah. I'm looking for habitable planets because we want to see if maybe there could be life there. And then that's when I was like, dude, thank you, Yuri. Like, this is like, you're actually a guy who looks for aliens for your job, and you get paid to do that. I'm like, that is as cool as it gets.
I agree. 100%.
So yeah, man, it was really cool.
I learned a lot from this podcast, because obviously we only met once, like for half an hour in the middle of the night. So I love to watch this stuff. Okay.
That's awesome, man. And it's especially cool. He's a unique person because of the fact that, he is a scientist in terms of his, how he makes a living. And yet he is this creative person that can sort of, add things to the Milky Way artistically and what everyone does when they make composites and things like that. And you don't usually see people that are sort of into both and are also very good at both. Like, usually it's like you're sort of either the scientist or you're the artist. You don't see many people that kind of have the left and the right brain working as efficiently as his seem to.
Yeah, that's perfect to see both sides, and to like just to be open, like that and bring it together.
Yeah.
So because neither has to be just on its own. So no, it's really good to.
When you were at the Atacama, did you notice as much of like he was talking about how like, chapped your lips get and how dry your skin, because it's so like, did that affect you a lot?
100%. These places are extreme. Like you said, like, it's like being on Mars. Like, you get out there, like in the observatory, they often have like humidity raised to make it better in the control rooms.
Right.
They have like air thingies blowing water. I don't know. English talking. Sorry.
Yeah. Air condition, I guess. HVAC.
Yeah, and just humidifying the air. But when you go outside, you feel your lips like
wow,
and your skin like it's crazy. And the altitude too, like being at such high elevations is like if you just sit around, it's okay, but as soon as you just walk up like 3 stairs or like just do anything, you feel out of breath, like proper, like your heart is beating, like you did something and you didn't do anything.
You didn't do shit.
So,
yeah,
and you get like dizzy and stuff and headache, and you forget all that stuff. So it's funny. I try to do a bit of vlogging there and talking to my GoPro. And when watching back the footage, when I was talking English, it's not my native language, on 5,000 meters or something, that made no sense. That was ridiculous. Like, what? Is he drunk or what? Or stoned or something? Like,
really out of shape.
Yeah, he couldn't remember the simplest words. Like, So that is exactly the kind of like, and then time lapsing in these kind of conditions, like, and you forget everything and make so many more mistakes. Like,
that's really crazy. So you, I guess, is that technically altitude sickness, or is that...
it's like oxygen. What is the name?
Oxygen deprivation or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, act drunk, you get stupid.
Yeah,
you get stupid.
That's so weird, man.
So and then the dryness and everything, the radiation and when you're that high, and the UV radiation is insane. It's insane. Really? You get a sunburn in 2 minutes. It's
wow.
It's crazy. It's like in Antarctica with the ozone hole. Yeah.
Have you been to Antarctica?
No, my friends have. That's why I know. But
okay.
They told so many stories from there, and I edited the footage from their time lapses. So maybe you can get them on the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
They can tell insane stories about shooting time lapse in Antarctica in -70 or -100 Fahrenheit.
How does a
Minus
camera
100 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's like, I can't, that's cold that I honestly can't imagine. I can't, mentally, I can't grasp that.
And nothing works there as it should. No LCD, no cable, like cable break like spaghetti, like shutter won't work. Anything moving won't work because the lubrication just freezes and you have to run anything without lubrication, basically.
So what do you
remove it and...
So what do you even shoot? Like, what camera do you use?
You use your normal cameras, you modify them, put them in exposure, put the external display on, heating, with fancy materials like Teflon cables and... Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's just like, yeah, you have to go crazy. Like, you have to replace almost every part. Normal tripods, like aluminum tripods or carbon fiber, actually, like, gets so cold, it gets so brittle, it breaks.
It'll break.
Yeah.
So what do you have to use? Like wood?
Steel. They just use like a steel tripod or usually steel, because it's also so windy. Anything light gets blown over. And they have static electricity problems because it's the driest place on Earth, even drier than Atacama.
Wow.
And static electricity builds up everywhere on the houses, on everything. So you have to ground everything to a wire, and like if you touch something, they have sparks. Like,
wow.
So
dude,
I mean,
so crazy.
I can't talk in depth because I haven't been there. That's my friend's stories, but
yeah,
fascinating.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite spot that you've gone, or even, you know what, even time lapse or not time lapse? Like, just, do you have a favorite place that you've been to?
I mean, I've been to a couple really, really nice places, and I don't want to compare them, honestly.
Right.
Why would I want to compare Dolomites, that are kind of my second home, with Patagonia or Norway? Why would I do that? Nothing does it justice. So maybe one of the favorite things I saw was the volcanic eruption of a volcano.
That footage is insane.
One in a lifetime, I guess.
Yeah.
That'll never happen for me.
Dude, yeah, I even messaged you about that shot the other day. Like that, what's so crazy is that you're still so far away from the smoke, at least, or you're shooting it wide. I don't really know, but
yeah, good thing we were far away.
Right,
outside they had an evacuation, 20-kilometer evacuation, and we were 25 kilometers away. So we could shoot it without rushing around. And driving.
But what's so crazy is that the smoke is billowing so far away, but you can still make out all of the fine detail, all of the little, like, I don't even know what the word is, like crevices as the smoke is. It's like you can see everything, and it looks so good.
And I mean, that maybe gives you a kind of scale. If you can see it 25 kilometers away like that, how big it is.
Yeah.
So that if I have to pick a favorite, that would be one. But
is that your favorite shot?
Also not. Like, I shot Milky Way, volcano, aurora, landscapes. I don't like to compare. Like, honestly, like...
Yeah. You've kind of done everything. I mean, well, maybe not Antarctica.
No, not even close. Like, my bucket list is long. Like, I want to go to Kamchatka, to Australia, Russia, like all these, Tibet, or anything in China. Like, I think there are so many secret or hidden spots that our Western society doesn't even know. Like,
true.
I think we know, like, the Great Wall and the Avatar Mountains in China, and I'm 100% sure there are so many more amazing things. So.
Yeah, well, totally, man. I mean, it's the size of the United States. You know what I mean? It's a huge, huge country. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Like, when you think of China, you really only think of a couple of things. It's like, well, I mean, there's a huge, like, the whole
massive
Gobi Desert. You know what I mean? It's gigantic, and there's so much stuff. I wonder if Gobi Desert would be a good place to shoot night sky from.
I have some friends from China, night sky photographers, and they share some of their shots, and it's amazing. amazing. It's like Atacama. It's like
Right.
Chinese Atacama. And to have the Himalaya mountains, like even bigger mountains than the Andes, it's fantastic. So
Yeah.
and so many like some of these countries are so hard to travel. Like Pakistan, for example, northern Pakistan must be amazing. Like the mountains there. It's hard to travel for obvious reasons, but
right,
from a landscape perspective, it's amazing. Kamchatka too, it's eastern Russia. It's a big part of the peninsula is military area.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only go there by helicopter and tank, basically, because there are no roads. But what I've seen is incredible.
I hope if you ever go there to shoot, you get to take a tank there. You know?
Yeah, right.
How would you like to travel?
Russian military helicopter.
Let's
just
go in the tank.
Dropping me up.
Yeah.
So
we'll take the tank.
There, I haven't been everywhere. Like not even close.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's so true though. There's a lot of these like, I remember, what was the name of that movie? That American film about, what was it? Lone Survivor, I think. It was the one where they go into Afghanistan and all that crazy stuff.
Lone Survivor, fantastic film.
And I remember thinking like, Afghanistan looks unbelievably beautiful. It looks amazing. And I've actually talked to other people that have been in the military that have gone to Afghanistan. They're like, dude, it's incredible there. But it's such a mixed emotional thing because it's like they don't really want to be there and it's a fucked up situation and everything.
Of course, yes.
But, periodically they could have these moments where they could just be like, dude, this is incredibly beautiful, this area. And so it makes you wonder like how many of these places that at least, I don't know maybe how people in Europe might look at it, but like Americans look at certain areas of the world as sort of off limits or something. And in reality, it's like we're missing out on something.
It's like, hey, this place in North Korea? That's amazing.
Yeah, right. Who says?
I'm sure there are. Like,
yeah. Also, have you been to Pyongyang in the summer? It's quite beautiful.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, not even a sarcastic. Like, probably true. Like, yes.
Yeah.
It's just off limits. And I mean, Russia is so huge. It's so gigantic.
Yeah.
I mean, there must be tons of places that nobody has ever seen, kind of, right?
Yeah. Probably. Did you ever see the Werner Herzog movie, Happy People, about the?
I don't think. I probably should. Werner Herzog.
The taiga.
Probably mandatory. No, sorry.
Yeah, it's about the people that live in the taiga, and which is like I guess some area of Siberia, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And
the taiga.
Yeah. His sort of I don't know if it was a conclusion because he's a filmmaker, he's not like a psychologist, but his overall like theme of the movie was that the taiga are like the happiest people in the world. And he kind of factored that out because he said that, you have to have a struggle. You can't just like we have it way too easy in like Western society. And so
for sure,
you need to have kind of like a struggle in order to be happy. You need to be fulfilled and tired and you have to work in order to experience, climb that mountain and then be happy.
Accomplish your happiness, kind of, right?
Yeah. You have to work. Things should be a little bit difficult. And so his kind of point with the taiga was that they live in in some respects, a very like harsh place to live, but in others, it's like they have what they need. Like they have shelter. There's enough like flora and fauna to thrive and eat animals and vegetation and whatever. So they've got what they need. It's just hard to live there. Like you have to work at it. But all these people were like so fucking happy without any of the bullshit that I didn't get the promotion or whatever it is that we complain about. I don't have to deal with that.
I try to get, or I actually get this kind of feeling when I'm out somewhere that like 99% of our problems of what's in the news is so meaningless. Like that is all self-made problems. Like, why you don't stop all like making your own problems? Like why?
Yeah.
So I really like that is really nice. Yes. So to get disconnected and to get this feeling of what matters. Because especially Atacama is such a great example. I was there for I had no cell phone service, only in a hotel every 10 days every week. And then being a week out there, meeting nobody, being in the middle of nowhere, just thinking about life and just looking at the stars is therapeutic, and you come back, switch on your phone, and what is that shit? Stop. I go out again.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And it's funny to think
on the other hand, I live from all this stuff. I live from marketing and this. My kind of job isn't essential or anything. So I see that I live from that whole machinery of economy and stuff. So that I can live from what I do is crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
So I can't complain about it that much. But then on the other hand, you don't need it.
Well, you're still aware of it, you know. One of the things that Yuri and I talked about a little bit was, and we kind of hit on this earlier too, is the fact that there are so many people that have just always lived in the city that have never seen a good night sky. They've never seen it, and I don't even think they're even in some cases aware that there's this thing, or they just whatever, it's just not a priority. They don't really care.
Yeah.
And I have to figure that.
Is it real? Have you edited that?
Yeah. It's it's probably a lot easier to be somebody like a flat earther that if you never see shit or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, I would want to see a study like that, how many flat earthers are living in the desert or in the middle of nowhere have seen that kind of stuff that tells you it's real. Everything is real.
Right.
Because if you have seen the amazing wonders of Earth just from documentaries or YouTube videos, why should you know better? You have to experience it.
Yeah. Colby Brown, another pretty big photographer, he posted something on his Facebook the other day, and because he's I can tell that he's in the middle of this he's very supportive of what's it called, the social distancing and staying inside, and he's one of those people that's absolutely 100% adamant on stop fucking around, just stay inside and let's do this. And
100%.
And obviously there are a lot of people now and a lot of murmurs of should we and shouldn't we not do that? And so there's a lot of back and forth now, and I can tell that it's driving him crazy.
Yeah.
And so he posted this meme, and it was let me break down my frustration for you or something like that. And it said, and it was go to college, 4 years, get a PhD or an MD, 6 years or something. And then spend years doing reading journals, and then more years conducting a theory, then have your theory go to peer reviewed, entities or whatever, come out with your theory, develop a paper. And then it's the culmination of all these things.
30 years of things.
Right. And then below that, it's guy on internet, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? It's that's so true.
That's exactly it. So that's also why I don't comment. Of course, everybody has his opinions and so on, but I like to be aware that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for most stuff, that is true. Most likely, it is true that,
Yeah.
Because I know that I can talk about time-lapse and stuff. I think I know what I'm talking about here, but the whole Corona thing, why should I know?
Right.
Why should I know? But I can, why should I know?
Yeah. The only thing that I
can listen to people that are way more qualified to know and have that background. So why would I even dispute that? How? In what background can I?
Right.
Exactly like that, like you said. So
Right. Yeah. The only, I know I can't have an opinion on anything either. The only thing that I can really look at and say is I'm going to do what the experts think is the right thing to do because they're the experts and I'm just going to trust them.
And I can try to understand it. Like, of course, you don't have to just do what they say. You can understand why
right.
that kind of stuff or that kind of recommendations are there. And when they go through and I can think like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
To try to understand, but just say no, here's why I learned on YouTube University.
Yeah.
Really? I mean.
Right. But it's frustrating when people that disagree with the experts are completely adamant about what they think, because it's like, I mean, I think it's fair to wonder. I think it's fair to say, like, so like, for example,
also to say like, okay, I don't understand it, or like, I don't agree. Okay. But still,
like, who the fuck are you anyway?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, good for you. You can think what you want.
Right.
But then telling other people based on your like educated guess or what? Like,
yeah. Non-scientists trying to affect policy, is the worst,
That's the worst.
It's just the worst.
The worst.
But yeah, like I mean, there are things that I wonder about. Like, I think there's a lot of things that will come out, like even like the top scientists will seemingly, they'll think X, and then in a couple of days they'll go, oh, well, maybe actually this. And so they'll change their mind slightly on some things, or
there's always a possibility that you're not right. And just to have that kind of mindset that you could be false, and if proven, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the right mindset, right? To say like, I know it, it's impossible. Nobody knows absolutely for sure, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm like my not native English kind of stops me a bit here.
Right. Well, there's so much speculation, I guess, to have. But yeah, I think that to your point, it's like it's okay for the scientific community to like change their minds to a degree in some cases. But I think what happens is that people are always so thirsty to like be correct or be the person that had this other theory and then nail it in the future. That what ends up happening.
Of course, they want to support what they like because they change it, but I like the other one more.
Right. So you end up with this.
Doesn't matter.
Well, I think what happens is that you end up with this thing where like if the scientific community like wavers a little bit, if they say, well, we're not so sure, it's almost like the conspiracy theorists will have like this, what they believe is a justified, like, aha, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
As if them
but
not
then
being...
it is only honesty. That is how it is, because
right.
They can't imagine that somebody says, I don't know for sure. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
That is a weakness to some people.
Right.
But it's a strength. It's to know that you're not 100% sure. It's really good, because if it is like that, it's good to admit. So
people are allowed to change their minds.
Yeah, exactly. So
what's the situation where you are now? Are you starting to now get back to any sort of normalcy, or?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I didn't had, like, obviously I can't travel. That is the biggest problem. Like, I had jobs and stuff that are postponed and canceled and so on. Everybody has these problems. But here at home, to be honest, like, I'm a lot here at home. I have my office here. I can work from home. So that kind of life is just normal. I was like shocked how normal quarantine or like that whole thing is for me. Like, I go shopping once a week only anyway, and that's about it. That is my social interaction. Like, I visit my family here and there, or go on the mountain, or like go outside, but that was still out all the time. So yeah, the stores are closed, and like I can't get to a restaurant or something.
Yeah.
But that was fine. And now it's slowly opening up. You wear masks when you're going to a store and everything okay.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean,
It's
I live
weird,
in
though.
a touristy town, which is like quite a tourist hotspot, like all year round. And we have a lot of hotels, a lot of flats, and a lot of restaurants. And that is obviously a big problem because they will open last.
Right.
And we have the ski resorts and cable cars and stuff. So it's a ghost town, like, or it has been a ghost town, because I used to have tourists all over the place, and now nobody's here. Then on the other hand, it was really nice to go to my favorite places, tourist favorite places, alone.
Totally.
I'm a local. Like, I can go to like where everybody goes, and I'm alone there. So that was kind of nice.
Totally.
But with a big downside, obviously, for all the business here in town. I mean, we are definitely on a positive trend. Like, the new cases are really low now. We're getting way lower. And I got a haircut yesterday.
No shit.
Yeah, I wasn't about to like go on this podcast with like that much hair.
Hey, that's the reason why people are like, dude, why do you wear that hat every single time? I'm like, I wear the hat because what's underneath here is like a bird's nest now, you know,
Exactly.
like it's not.
And it's
looking
getting
good.
summer now. Oh man, that was getting way too hot on the head. Like, I had a lot of stuff, so I didn't have a haircut for 3.5 months or something. So
right.
Oh, that was really nice. So I see things are positive now with my haircut starting. That is.
I think the haircut is the benchmark for are things better. That's it.
Getting better. And then, like, economic wise, I have to say, like, I got some, how do you call this, like, fund thing or like care package.
Like stimulus.
Yeah, and I was surprised how much they cared about the really small business artist community, like me. Yeah. I'm a one-man band, and I also like pianists or like any artist. They get really supported here. So
that's cool.
I really can't complain. I never thought like it would be so easy in bureaucracy land Germany to get anything easy, and I just filled one form and then they send the money like 3 days later. Like,
wow.
What?
Damn, you guys acted fast. Wow.
It's not with everything, but I feel like overall well managed. I really can't complain. Could be much, much worse.
Oh, well, I mean, in the US, it's just crazy right now. Like, I mean, I've got a friend who is a musician. He's a drummer, and he works in like the wedding industry. So he's like an events guy. And so his band like plays lots of events, but then he does other stuff too. He's not just in the band. He like has the events, company. And then the weddings are his biggest thing. And like, I still don't know if he's gotten anything. And it's been 2 months now. And it's just like, dude, I have like hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue because it's a wedding, because he's a seasonal business. It's like all his business is
summertime,
the next 4 months or something. And it's just like every single one of them like is done. Like what am I supposed to do? And it's like, there's so many people that are in that spot where it's like, I don't know what the hell to tell you, dude. Like, that sucks. He was actually going to do the podcast. And I guess we've just kind of been missing each other or whatever, but because I wanted to ask him more questions about like, dude, what the hell are you going to do? But yeah, in the US, it's been, it's always a debate. It's always like, well, how much, and is this too much, and who do we give it to? And like, there's just way more, I don't know, argument about it here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, probably. Like, I can't really tell. I don't know, like, how it is. You have to tell me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, it didn't take 3 days for people. I can tell you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it takes longer, but I was surprised. And like, I know for other businesses, it's not that easy. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just seems like the government had currently really like priority on these independent, on the artists, on like culture thing. I know it's a big thing anyway in Germany to support these kind of cultural goods, and overall, like, it's a big part of social society here. But I was surprised how high priority that is. I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, we have that thing called Kurzarbeit, so you don't lose your job. Like I feel like not a lot of people are losing their jobs yet, because you have this kind of like one, or like you don't work, but you still get paid 60 or 80% of your income from state, and like shared company things. And yeah, there's that system. So only after many months you lose your job. So
Yeah.
hopefully now it starts again. That kind of system like bridges that.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, like, but then on the other hand, everybody is in the same boat basically. Like almost nobody not affected. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope that the tourism, like you obviously you said your area is very hospitality driven in terms of what I assume, kind of keeps the town going.
yeah.
And I mean, I hope that there's a way that can get back, because I think that's the biggest concern is like hospitality, travel, anything event related. Like
for me too, like I feel like a lot of my 8K footage goes to like trade shows, because frankly now, like normal people don't need 8K. I have that all the time, like you don't need 8K. Yeah, sure. In your home you probably don't need 8K. That's true. But still, my clients, they love it. They need more. And those are trade shows most of the time. So all these have been canceled. I had to do a couple of refunds. And there probably won't get any inquiries for all that stuff for this year. And then I just feel like more documentaries are reaching out because they can't shoot what they wanted to shoot. So if they find somebody who has stock of it and good stock, they might be able to still go on with the production without going there to shoot it. So it shifts. But that's also why I asked for that care package thing, because like all the trade shows, like now the NAB and whatever, like all the big trade shows are canceled this year basically.
Yeah.
And,
so do you set up as a vendor usually at those trade shows? Like a
no.
Or like how does
the companies have their booth and have like kind of big displays, like display companies that build the displays. They want content to show.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They need something to play on it.
Okay, I see.
Can be projector companies, TV manufacturers, or like LED walls, or or even just unrelated, like just some company selling whatever. They have a display there.
Yeah.
Just want to show something, to have it a bit.
They just need people to kind of get drawn to their whatever they're selling. Yeah.
And usually these displays are really big because it's on a trade show and they need these high resolutions. So
right. Yeah, you can't put it on a 100-inch screen.
So that is the main kind of
right. I see.
For 8K at the moment, because home is 8K at home is not a real thing. Really.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm supposed to have this guy on who's actually a safari guide. Like he lives in Zambia and he's a guide. So he gets in dangerous situations with animals and stuff, like really cool shit. And I'm very into the safari industry because I mentioned I've gone to Africa a bunch of times. And that's one of my main like concerns is like, dude, who the hell is going to go on safari anytime soon? There's no one is going to get on a plane and go and do that. And I know that these guys are going to get hit like super, super hard. And so I just wonder like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is the plan B? So I'm super excited to see.
Yeah, that is really interesting, especially in these areas. Like if you don't have income from tourism, like does poaching get more serious, or all this stuff, because people need to make money.
Yeah.
Like, I bet that is really interesting and eye-opening.
Yeah.
Likely.
Yeah. Well, dude, we've been doing this for 2.5 hours, by the way. I'm just realizing.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I see. Shit.
Which is awesome, dude. Like I'm so appreciative of you coming on and
let me say, like anybody who watches this still right now, congrats.
Yeah. If they made it past all the geeky tech talk in the first, 45 minutes or something.
Yeah. Special thanks.
Yeah, you're a champion. The three people that are still left.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
But seriously, man, thank you so much for coming on. You are extremely good at this. And I know that a lot of people watch your stuff and go, I think maybe I'm going to pick up a camera and give it a try. I'm sure of it, and I think that's cool.
Or love to think that. Who knows?
Oh, dude, for sure. So yeah, man, thanks so much again for coming on, and let's keep in touch. And dude, like once we're out of this thing, if you come to the States, we should totally meet up. Honestly,
that is way overdue. I have to visit so many friends there. Like I have to do a cross-country US trip for sure.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Honestly, maybe that whole thing just gives me the push to just, now I just buy the ticket and do it.
Dude, you probably have plenty of places to crash as well.
Yeah. Sounds good. Love
America, 8K,
8K, 12K, 120 FPS.
Yeah, there you go. All right, man.
Whatever.
Well, thanks again,
nice talking to you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good day. Cheers.